Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me special pleasure to talk to you about a topic that appears to be eternal, but only at first sight. This topic is, however, more topical than ever before. Presenting Croatian experience, the experience of a young state having only 20 years of experience after its declaration of independence, I will try to present one of possible approach to European reality and future, hoping that this approach might raise some hope that it's possible to revitalize some of the major elements of what we might call the European dream. 4 months ago, citizens of my country, the Republic of Croatia, expressed in a democratic way at referendum their wish for their country to become a member of the European Union. Although the turnout was only about 45%, 2/3 of those who cast their vote were in favor of the accession, 1/3 was against. The voice of Croatian people was thus clear. The country was neither overwhelmed by powerful euro enthusiasm nor mere Euroscepticism. The majority of electorate, either explicitly or implicitly, backed the decision of the political leadership of the country, among whom the consensus about European Union accession as a strategic national interest has been present for a long time. The referendum affirmed that the reform efforts persistently undertaken by succession of Croatian governments of different political colors were in line with the will of our citizens. I must emphasize that Croatian business people have, from the very beginning, supported political efforts aimed at acceding to the European Union as soon as possible. They argued that this would have an exceptionally positive impact on Croatia's business climate, which during the negotiations process became more transparent than it had been ever before. We attached great importance to the task of our citizens with regard to the issue of joining the EU, since this trust was shown at the moment when the legitimacy of political elites was questioned Europe-wide in many countries. At the same time, Croatian citizens also voted for change at the recent parliamentary elections. This, however, did not jeopardize the backing of the country's European course. The success of Croatia's referendum indicates that the European idea is still attractive, not only to political and economical elites, but also to citizens. The European dream, the vision of shaping European identity, European institutions and European policies still generates motivation. How else can one explain that a country like Croatia, which proclaimed its independence only 20 years ago, now decided to join the European Union, of which it has been said in recent years that it's facing a deep institutional, political and economical crisis? In this address, I would like to offer some possible answers to this question. First of all, one should stress that the peaceful and systematic process of implementing the idea of a unified and connected Europe changed its course at the end of the Cold War in 1989. This historical earthquake offered at the same time new opportunities, unprecedented thus far, but it also, as it soon became evident in the area of the former Yugoslavia, caused new dangers and new risks. New states emerged on the soil of Europe, most of which expressed their wish to become part of a great European family of nations. At the same time, they set out on the path of transition and democratization. However, the path was not identical for all countries. Croatia went through an unusual, difficult and complex transitional process. Croatia is also a country that was regrettably a victim of war and violence in its recent past at the beginning of the transitional process. The war made our transition from authoritarian system into democracy even more complicated. We had to transform our political system, consolidate our democracy, and change the foundation of our economical system. At the same time, we were building our new state even at a time when we were defending ourselves in the war that was imposed upon us. Our process of transition also included an element not shared by other countries in Eastern and Central Europe. This was, among other transitions, transition from war to peace. We faced problems we had not been prepared for, since we had not expected them. I do not want to look for justification for possible slowness and even some failures in transition process, but it would still like to note that had to resolve certain issues for which other countries had 30 or even more years within a much shorter period of time. This may be the right place to start considering the reasons for the positive decision of Croatian citizens about European Union membership. Just as the idea of European community and cooperation emerged under the strong impression of horrors of the Second World War in Europe, equally so the accession to EU gives us a firm guarantee that we shall live in a community of peace. The European Union is precisely this, an anti-war community. The European Union did not emerge just for the sake of trade, in spite this aspect was an important component of its genesis. The EU emerged as an expression of concern of the European nations over violent nationalism, and that unfortunately characterized the 20th century Europe. Membership in the European Union, just as well as membership in NATO, which we joined in 2009, is, so great as a citizen, an instrument for achieving greater security. The value of peace may best be preserved at times when the memories of war tragedy is still fresh. I will draw the first lesson of Croatian experience from this very point. The vision of the process of European community always needs to include the dimension of ensuring and promoting peace in Europe. The European Union is not an ideal community. We are all aware that it's imperfect just as all our states, members of Union, are. Still, the Union gives a significant contribution to the post-war reconciliation in Europe and to providing security guarantees to all its peoples, especially smaller ones. Security and stability are, as you know, prerequisites for everything else, including free, just, and open market. In those years, for instability of our country and its immediate neighborhood, the damage incurred by the Croatian economy was among the highest the country had to put with. Hundreds of thousands of houses and economical facilities were demolished or badly damaged. Our tourist industry, a very important sector of our economy, suffered great losses in the 90s and only recovered 10 years after the war. We lost many young, well-educated and productive people for whom we hope and we are working on it too, will return once Croatia joins the European Union and thus becomes fully consolidated. The EU is to us, as well as to the other country in our region, prerequisite for further progress. Thus, we arrive at the second reason why the process of European unification is still attractive to us. This is the development dimension. The European project is a project of permanent development. What matters to us is that this development be not only permanent but also take into account that some parts of Europe need to develop especially rapidly. This is necessary in order to avoid major disparities between those who have already achieved a high level of development and others who need to catch up. The fact that some parts of Europe are not as developed as others, and I mean in particular it's perhaps part in the east and southeast, it's mainly the result of historical circumstances of which the people living there could not exert any influence. But why, if international circumstances were unfavorable before, should we not make them more favorable now and in the future? If they used to be the reason for lagging behind and stagnation, why should not then now become one of the major generators for development and democratic consolidation? At this stage, we see European Union as an external protagonist that motivates us on the path of our own development. During the association process itself, it influenced on internal reforms leading to development and transformation of our entire social system was, I dare say, of crucial importance. We could not have implemented some reforms without the support. In this sense, our success is at the same time the success of European project. Our citizens are aware that Europe itself is facing a deep economical and development crisis. However, this crisis would have been even deeper, and we had been facing it as a small country disconnected from others. While reforming our state, we gradually put in place legislative prerequisites for transforming Croatia into a country of open market. This has opened up major opportunities for our citizens to join European trends, but also given rise to fears which have open market and highly competitive market competition bringing with it. Regardless of it, our citizens still can see that European member countries are in most cases highly developed countries and that everybody's life is easier and more successful than in other countries. It makes the European dream still attractive. At the same time, this conclusion is, at the same time, a warning how important it is to overcome the crisis we are currently facing together. If we do not overcome the crisis, it may happen that this important reason for attraction will vanish, and this would affect the future of European project. Finally, the third reason why we want to take an active part in the European Union and why we believe in the European idea is also of symbolic nature. Symbolically, we get the feeling that we are recognized as a normal country, that we have become similar to the others, that we have qualified for a serious league, to use sports jargon. We are now longer than in some forecourt, waiting room or laboratory, but have now been placed in the table where decisions are made. To us, the accession to the European Union is kind of certificate and external confirmation that we, after all, have managed to reach a certain level of social development, and the other recognize this. In this sense, the participation of one so large and historically important project boosts self-confidence and fosters our motivation for further transformation and further development. Ladies and gentlemen, Croatia is a small country that relies on cooperation with others. This especially holds true for cooperation with those who are close to us in all respects, with whom we share political and social values, as well as many elements of our cultural identity. After 20 years of transformation, we can state with satisfaction that all the countries from our surrounding area now are focused on the same goal, to join the major European community. This is important to us that we share the vision of future, which is for most part defined by framework of European unification process itself with countries of South and East Europe. Just as all European nations need good neighborhood, reliable partners and friends, so does Croatia. It's important to us that the vision of free, just and developed Europe as a common home is accepted at last partly in our neighborhood countries and the entire European neighborhood. As a small country, Croatia considers the European platform to be an instrument for increasing the strength of its voice when deciding on important international issues of the present age. We are aware of limited resources that we have at our disposal as a country with a population of just over 4 million. However, we want to be involved in the decision-making process, and we believe that, given our experience, including that arising from a specific part of transformation, we can be a constructive member of the European community of nations. This especially refers to certain areas where our experience overlaps with need of European Union to formulate a clear strategy. Thereby, I mean not only the Western Balkans, but also the Mediterranean, and relations in Central Europe and in the whole post-communist part of Europe. We are prepared for and interested in becoming a protagonist for further transformation and Europeanization in the best and the most positive sense, the entire Europe. It's important that such transformation does not seize the countries that have recently joined the European Union, and in particular, that there are no setbacks towards greater nationalism. Under the circumstances of the economic and social crisis, its setback would be potentially dangerous for all. Ladies and gentlemen, having decided to join the European Union, the Republic of Croatia has made a very important step forward towards making its European dream come true. There were times during the accession period when we thought that this vision, these dreams would never come true. However, we have not given up. This experience is what we bring into the European community of nations, the awareness that even at times when it seems that the vision gets elusive, we will, for modernization dwindles, we should not give up. The same holds true for European project. It may seem to us today that this project has lost its traction and that under the new circumstances it has become too complex and possibly redundant. However, our conclusion is different. To us, this process remains to be one of the major engines of development, one of motivators of social transformation, and one of permanent guarantees of freedom and security. Therefore, we are joining it willingly and with certain positive energy, wishing to give our contribution to it. I call upon you, distinguished business people, to work together with us, bearing in mind that the specifics I have previously referred to. The European idea opens the door for you in an area and under the circumstances that may not always be uniform, but are often very complex with good reasons. However, this is an area where people of goodwill and good hope will wait for you. I call upon you to work together with our companies and our people in order to turn, as soon as possible, as fully as possible, the vision of Europe more secure, richer, juster, and free Europe into reality. Thank you very much.